Hi, welcome to the Experiment Podcast. I'm your host, Jade Terrio. This is a podcast, a space, a container where we give soul and life to the practical, the logical, and the scientific. And we give feet and legs and grounding to the magical, the mystical, and the woo-woo. This is a space, my little corner of the universe, where I actively live my life as if it is, because it is, a lab. And I experiment with personal development and healing concepts, all for the sake of sharing with you what works for me and what doesn't, with the purpose of trying to continue stepping deeper and deeper down the path of becoming and embodying my highest self. Last week's episode was by far the most popular episode that I have published to date. The feedback was astounding. Everyone's reaction and responses were honestly unexpected, and it's still trickling in. I even made a post on TikTok, which I don't do enough from a social media strategy standpoint, but I even made a TikTok just sharing. It was a carousel post about the who's and what's and whens and whys of what I'm doing and why I'm choosing to start over and remain single, celibate, and sober for the next year. And it's truly so beautiful, the way that this post on TikTok that I thought maybe would get 5 likes and 5 views actually got, last time I looked, was like 23,000 views. And we were at like 2,500 likes, which is just insane. And I think there were like 200 something comments, and almost all of those comments are women telling me that they've either done this or they are doing this actively, or because of this post that I made, something clicked for them, and this is what they need to do to heal themselves. And I feel so affirmed and reassured that this is the right path. And on TikTok, I didn't go through all of the comments, so potentially, but I don't think I received one negative comment. And how amazing is that out of 20,000 people who looked at this and watched this carousel video of me sharing my experience in a very poetic written form, not one person had something bad to say. Everyone was in agreement and they understood, and it was like a full fuck yes for all of those women, and even some of the men who commented. And the flip side of that is on my YouTube channel, on the actual last episode, that post, I received my very first ever hate comment. And I want to read it to you because I think that it's so important for me to talk about here, especially with the premise of everything that's happening. The comment, I don't know if it's from a man or a woman. I don't think it matters. It's a person, a human. And it says, "You are literally just going to get back together with him. The single best indicator of what a person will do is what they have done in the past. You're toast. Your best chance is to get a new boyfriend as fast as possible. You need help breaking that connection with him." And someone else, some stranger, commented to this person's comments and said, "That is horrible advice and could potentially break a total innocent person's heart who is ready to go all in." And this person who made the hate comment said, "As long as you're 100%, it's really hard to break someone's heart. She should just tell the new guy he's a bit of a rebound and that she's just trying to get over a toxic ex. That way he knows from the start to be careful with his heart. I bet you he won't care. And then the other person that was going back and forth with this hate comment person said, yes. But then at that point, I feel like it's just using each other. And I just find this perspective to be not surprising, right? And in a way, this person's comment definitely holds some weight and some truth. You know, the best indicator of what a person will do is what they've done in the past. This person, this comment is literally calling out my pattern. This person is saying, this woman has a pattern of codependency and trauma bonding and self-abandonment and limiting beliefs around love. And because she has lived her 29 years up to this point that way, she's most likely going to either go back to this person who has broken her heart more times than she can count, or she'll probably end up repeating this cycle with someone else. And I want to take a moment, sit in this, and just like pause for a second. And I want to just say to this person, I think it's like King of Sheba or something. In any moment, in any iteration of this breakup before right now, I would say, you are absolutely right. Or, I don't really know what's going to happen, but it's not going to be that. What I can say with utmost certainty in this moment is that, one, I'm not toast. And it's really funny that you said that, and I almost want to make merchandise that says you're toast. But two, before this moment and before this version of our breakup, I was so deep in a fog that, yes, I was not even fully, totally aware of the patterns that were driving my behaviors. Therefore, I was ending up right back where I started. The difference between then and now is I am painfully, tragically, hauntingly, soberly aware of, I don't want to say the deficiencies in me, but I will say the filters, deficiencies, the parts of me that are driving me back to land in relationship with someone who is hurting me. This version of myself right now in this moment is choosing consciously, moment to moment, to do things differently. Repatterning is not easy. And there are moments within the next year, next 3 years, 5 years, the rest of my life, when I will probably, most likely, most certainly get triggered or slip up or make mistakes and in some form or fashion end up back in some type of learning opportunity within relationship. But I can promise and swear on my life, on this current version of me, that this is the end of this current cycle. This is the end. You know, you guys on YouTube and Spotify and Instagram, you guys are only getting a very small glimpse of the entirety of the situation. And that is for privacy's sake, because I truly, genuinely cannot share the intimate details in totality with you. it just wouldn't be right for myself, for my daughter, and for this person. But there are things that have happened with this particular breakup that have woken me up in a way that I didn't quite realize I needed to be woken up, in ways that I didn't even know I was asleep. And the damage that has been done is truly, and I say this in the utmost, most like honest way, the situation itself is irreparable and unforgivable. And that is that. And the whole purpose, bringing back to this comment of saying that, the best indicator is that I'll end up back up with him, because I will basically be repeating this pattern, is exactly why I'm doing this. It is exactly why I am choosing to spend the next year alone. I don't want to be desired. I don't want to drink and be distracted by the noise of the external world. This is truly my opportunity, my greatest, most sacred invitation to go inside of myself without the noise of love and romance and intimacy romantically and like seduction. I get to just sit in the really ugly, loud, screaming, high-pitched screaming sound of myself. And it's not going to be pretty, but it is the active work of repatterning myself, repatterning my nervous system, rewiring my brain to not end up here again. I'm not just choosing to be single, celibate, and sober and just say those words and not do. This phase, this moment is an active undoing of the conditioning and personality and person that my 29 years of life has created and built. Like I said, I do not want to be desired right now. The thought of anyone flirting with me and coming on to me and pursuing me makes me want to vomit. Like I'm a little girl watching a romance movie and the main characters are kissing. It's gross, and I don't want any part of it. I don't want to be looked at in that way. I don't want to be pursued. I just want to be. I just want to be with myself. Now, do I still want connections with other people? Yes, very much so. More so than ever, in fact. I want my deep, dark, bright connections with my friends. I want to have those yummy, scary, violent conversations about life and about the undoing. I do want that. But I want it in the flavor and the texture of platonic intimacy. And I think platonic intimacy is a very foreign concept in our world today, because everything is sexual. Everything is overly sexualized. And I know even with some of my friendships, My ex-partner's family has even said that they questioned some of my friendships because they thought some of my friends and I were more like we were romantic or we did things, and we don't. Like, what I'm learning and what I'm like actually seeing, like, two of my best friends both live out of state. They live like 1,000 miles away from me, plus some. Both of those relationships are so pure and so genuine, but also so real and so vulnerable and so honest that me and those people can show up in relationship with each other. And it is truly the most platonic relationships I have ever had. They are like sisters. And we can just be and exist, but there's also this overwhelming love that we have for one another. And that is what I crave. That is what I want. And it exists. And I know it exists because I have it here doubled in my life. But romance itself, partnership, really having to get to know someone and flirt and do that whole thing, like I literally feel it in my throat. Like my throat chakra tightens and like I get so nauseous and I straight up want to just like vomit everywhere. This healing, this version of myself, this phase that I'm in, this season that I'm in is not a romantic one. It is one where I just need to sit with myself and just see what comes up and do the nitty gritty, hard, yucky work. I'm about a month into this and I want to be very, very honest about how this first month has looked and felt and tasted and smelt. This first month has not been pretty. This first month has not felt magical. It's not felt free. It's not felt exciting. There is a teeny tiny ember deep, 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 deep in my chest and in my brain. A little tiny seed that feels some level of hope for the future. But it's so tiny. It's so minuscule. And all of the rest inside of me, all of the noise, all of the fire, all of the water, all of the everything inside of me is grief and rage and heartbreak. And when I say grief and rage and heartbreak, I don't say it in a poetic way. I say it is raw human emotion alive inside of me. I, most days, roll out of bed. When I have my daughter, I make her breakfast and we eat breakfast and I read her a book while we eat breakfast. And I don't apply myself. I put on my gym clothes. I get her to daycare. I come home. I work from home. I bury myself in my corporate job. And then I go pick up my daughter and I cook us dinner. And we usually will go to the park or something for her. And then we do our nighttime routine. I put her to bed. I take a shower and I go to bed. A few episodes ago, I did an episode about the importance of taking care of our body as the first line, the first defense, the first act of healing. And I truly can't even do that right now. It's been about a month, and scary enough, I have lost about 12 pounds, which is insane to think about. 12 pounds from pure heartbreak. I have not been this small in over 2 years. And it's not healthy and it's not where I want to be, but like physically my body is hurting. Like the physical effects of the heartbreak are imminent. They are unavoidable. And I'm in this space, in this phase where I don't have any other option but to just do what I can and let that be enough. And right now, that doing enough looks like eating when I can, whatever I can, even if it's really shitty fast food, or sipping on bone broth and soup because I can't literally stomach anything else, and sleeping when I need to sleep, and crying when I need to cry, and numbing myself as I try to pinpoint where I can slowly process, because there is just so much to process. And I'm not in a phase of this where the dust has settled and I can close this book and move forward. Legally, there are things that we have to figure out for our daughter, and we're still in limbo. Not relationally, but just in life. And so I'm just literally taking it moment to moment, day by day, and letting that be enough. To some extent, I feel like a ghost in my own life. I feel hollow and like a shell of a human. And I'm not quite in the phase yet where I get to unhollow myself, where I get to fill myself back up. This first month, and I fear the next couple of months will be me sitting in the emptiness and in that quiet and watching myself exist here, letting myself grieve and feel the pain of just being empty. I've never let myself just be empty. I've never let myself just sit in that stillness of nothingness. I've always tried to distract and fill it and rush for something outside of me to just take away the ache of the hollowness. And this phase, this moment, I'm not allowing that. I'm forcing myself to just exist here for as long as my body, my mind, my soul needs to. The truth is that I'm not just losing a relationship and this impossible, idyllic fantasy future that I just wanted so badly. I am losing the version of myself, the only version of myself that I have ever known. I have not known a version of me to exist outside of the bounds of who I am now, because I have not allowed myself to step outside of her and do something so drastically and radically different, which is why I'm doing this, which is why I'm choosing to be single, why I'm choosing to be celibate, why I'm choosing to be sober. The patterns that I repeated with this person, the codependency, the trauma bonding, it's this little girl in me who is driving this vessel, this ship, who just wants someone to understand her and see her and meet her and love her so ferociously. And romantically, she's never experienced that. In a primal, childlike way, she never experienced that from the people, the real people whose responsibility it was to provide that to her. I have given all of me, as much as I could consciously give, to romantic partners, just given it all, and called that love, even though those individuals did not have the bandwidth or the capacity to hold me. Love does not leave you sick. Pure, conscious, genuine love does not confuse you or cause you to doubt yourself. Genuinely, I confused pain as a price for love. I confused suffering and self-abandon as tickets to get into the show of love. I thought that in order to actually be loved, I had that in any iteration of love, I would have to self-abandon. I would have to make myself smaller. I would have to give and give and give until I was nothing. And within that, I believed that if I could survive that, if I could survive the self-abandon, if I could survive the perpetual emptying of myself into colanders of people, that was like the true act of love, right? Like that would prove that is love, and that I am loved, and that I am worthy of love. But I was just recreating chaos and recreating themes in my life, the only themes that I've ever known, which are twisted, limited truths about love that are not real and are not right. In my last therapy session, my therapist asked me a question that gutted me and called me out in a way that I'm not really used to being called out, because normally I do the calling out myself. I tend to force myself to, at the very least, just admit the truth, even if I'm not ready to change it. But in my last session, after pouring into this room with her and sobbing, she was very comforting and very reassuring, and asked me, "Do you think you stayed with him and chose him because maybe subconsciously you knew that he couldn't meet you at the depth that you need and deserve to be met? Therefore, it was a way of avoiding emotional vulnerability. In a way, that relationship allowed you to avoid your own depth, your own deepest, darkest darkness, and your deepest, brightest light." It was a way of forcing me to filter myself and make myself smaller and not fully express and embody myself. And this question deeply, deeply landed in me, because if he had met me there in my depth and fullness, I would have had to show up differently. I would have had to risk being vulnerable and being totally seen. I stayed in what was familiar out of a form of personal avoidance, even though it hurt and made me miserable and I suffered. My relationship with him was an active defense mechanism to avoid myself. I was avoiding my own power. There's a part of me that I think back on the last 6 years, and she wanted to be seen. She wanted to be met there by him. But for some reason, she knew he couldn't and stayed, hoping that her suffering and her pain and her loyalty to that pain would change him. And that is what I'm sitting with now. That is what I'm reckoning with. The very hard, cold, sober truth that this relationship was a way of keeping me at a distance from myself and from doing the work that I needed to do within myself. And there's also a part of me that feels like this relationship was my subconscious way of being with someone who I knew would be a catalyst to begin to bring those subconscious beliefs and patterning and conditioning online and to the front row, so that way I could see it and I could not avoid it, and I would have to heal it. I would have to do the impossible thing and change it. You know, I don't know what the intent of the person who left the comment on the YouTube channel. I don't know what their intention was, whether it was to dismiss me or because they don't believe in repatterning and healing trauma and moving forward, or maybe it was just because they're bored in their own lives and wanted to stick their nose into my life. And I don't know, maybe they think they're protecting me. I could speculate all day, every day. But the truth is that despite my relationship, this very long, drawn out, painful relationship, despite it not being conscious or safe or mutual, I truly loved this person. I truly and will forever love this person. I will never discredit that with myself. I gave that relationship all of me to where now sitting here, I am quite frankly, honestly, empty. But unlike what King Sheba said in his YouTube comment, I'm not going back. I'm not going back, not because I don't love him and because of my behaviors. I'm not going back because when you see something in the ways that I see something now, there is no going back. Because what I thought was there, and every time I returned to it in the past, wasn't real. And it took this 6 years, this moment, for me to finally realize that none of that, it wasn't real. That relationship was twisted and unbalanced, and I was idealizing a situation. And I was so wrapped up in the potential and the words that I kept overlooking the raw evidence in front of me based on his pure actions. And now, finally, for the first time, I do see not only his actions, but mine, and the constant self-abandoning and forgiving of someone who had no desire to keep the promises that were made, to be honest, to not live a life of secrecy and seduction with other people. Quite frankly, I'm battling if he ever really actually liked me as a person at all. I don't think he even knew me. I think he had this made-up version of me in his head in the same way that I had this made up version of him in my head. I think my TikTok and that post in general hit home so hard is because I don't know if anyone has ever really asked me that question. Like, who are you without romance, without being desired? Who are you without being sexualized? Who is the woman underneath all of that? And even when we are single, in my past, my pattern is get dressed up and have a glow up and look so good and sexy and go out and meet people and like feel the like burning, yummy taste of being wanted. What I am proposing and what I am doing is the exact opposite of that. I'm asking myself, how unsexy can I be? I am not interested in the noise and the distraction of romance and flirting and external validation, and not in a way of being above it, because I'm not. And there's still very much a part of me that's like, think I'm pretty, tell me I'm pretty, tell me I'm amazing, all the things. Of course, that's our ego. We all have that. But I'm actively working on detaching from that voice, detaching in a way that allows a new, sober, celibate Jade to come forward. Like I said, the version of myself that I've never met because I've never allowed her to exist before now. She's been buried under being chased and wanted and desired and being in relationship since she was in 8th grade. This work is not pretty. It is not glamorous. This is the really ugly, deep, dark, real, true work. That's all I have for today. Just a reminder that this work is not easy, but it is possible. And if you want to change your life, you have every right and every resource at your fingertips inside of you. But it is hard, and it is ugly, and it can be violent, and it can be brutal. And there are good moments too. And there's love, and there's hope, and there is excitement. Thank you for showing up here today. I love you.